This program do not necessarily reflect or represent those of the owners, management, or advertisers of Pacific Telestations, Inc. This message has been brought to you by the stations of KUAM.
You're watching Buzz with Jess Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to tonight's show. Tonight's episode, very exciting show tonight. I have former Department of Interior Assistant Secretary of Insular Affairs, Tony Babauta. Are we doing an election coverage tonight? Primo, how you doing, man?
I'd love to do election coverage with you anytime.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you very much for accepting my offer to come on the show tonight.
It's something we should have done sooner.
Absolutely, and we're going to do more of it, you know. Okay, great. Hey, let's talk about this, and just perfect timing that you come on the show, you know, this storm Dolphin here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, the governor had great concerns about, you know, some of the destruction that happened, and of course the major destruction happened up here north, and a lot of the destruction happened to homes of people, migrants, our brothers and sisters from the outer islands, mm-hmm. who have come here based on the compact of free association, the compact with the federal government. Now, in regards to footing the bill for that, I know the governor was doing an assessment and, you know, trying to make the case again to the federal government and say, hey, you know, Department of Interior, federal government, man, we're going to have to shoulder the costs again for this. I seriously doubt if we're going to get any kind of compensation for that, but your thoughts on that? I mean, you were the guy that we appealed to for
yeah.
some of these questions, some of these you know, challenges.
Yeah. Well, you know, the history of,
mm-hmm.
of that money,
mm-hmm.
to begin with, begins in Compact 2 back in 2003,
mm-hmm.
where we increased the amount of Compact Impact Aid, which was very minuscule
mm-hmm.
compared to what it is now. Now it's up to $30 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Since that time, there's been continued outmigration from the freely associated
mm-hmm.
states
mm-hmm.
For one or another reason. I think it's a lot of it is economic opportunity, so they go and
mm-hmm.
they seek
sure.
Seek a better life
sure,
elsewhere.
Sure.
And but certainly they've burdened communities that they've gone to,
mm-hmm.
Especially when those who migrate to U.S. jurisdictions
sure,
such
sure.
as Guam do so without the skills
mm-hmm. necessary
to get into our economy
sure.
and get into the workforce. The prospect of adding additional money to the mandatory funding level of $30 million a year for the remainder of the second compact, which is until 2023, sure. Is extremely difficult in the environment in Washington.
Sure, sure.
It's a budget issue, it's an offset issue, and then it's an issue where I don't think members of Congress fully appreciate the burden that's being placed on not only Guam but also Hawaii and
sure,
you know
sure,
to a lesser
sure,
extent
sure.
the Northern Marianas. It's unfortunate that you know they when they have come to Guam that they have homes that aren't, you know, sufficient enough to be able to withstand storms, and obviously we've seen that occur. As far as a direct reimbursement for helping out with the storm, probably not.
Yeah, and that was my thought. I said it's not going to happen, and if you do, you're going to be setting precedents, and I'm sure Congress will not be appreciative of that, because then other territories and even the states will avail themselves to that for people. Again, one of the ways to qualify is that you're a citizen. So this opens up a whole can of worms if that happens. Bigger thing. Of course, one of the arguments against the war reparations, at least in the Republican side, is that if we do that for Guam, then you open up the African Americans to, again, what happened to them during the time of slavery.
Yeah, I think again on that particular issue, another misunderstanding.
Okay.
You know, when it comes to war reparations, I don't think it necessarily opens it up, because Guam had already received authority from Congress shortly after the war to make reparations, right?
Yeah.
So it was during that process that it was being carried out on Guam, implemented on Guam to provide reparations, that there was an admiral that was asked by Congress to go to Guam and see how the Navy is administering the program. And he reported back to Congress that there were shortfalls in the program, but Congress never took any further action. And so the efforts by Congressman Wampak, Congressman Blas, Congressman Underwood, and Congresswoman Berdallo is to revisit that and provide equitable treatment you know, go back and if people weren't given what they were supposed to, then let's give them, you know, the right
Sure.
amounts of money. Or if they weren't given anything, let's give them the right
Yeah,
amounts of money.
let's touch on that because, again, you know, that war reparations has been, again, diluted in the sense that now only the survivors are people that are currently living, okay, and of course the families of folks who had passed as a result of the war back then, but more and more are leaving, are leaving us. In your again, your experience and the climate of Washington, not just in the past, but now and moving forward, there'll be a new president in next year, basically, yeah, Democrat or Republican. The climate of Washington, do you think, again, that within even our lifetime, that we will see war reparations?
That's a difficult question. You know, the efforts by all the previous members of Congress, all of our voices to Congress from Guam, and then our current voice in Congress through Madeline. You just have to. I mean, you know, that struggle was a long sought struggle just to get to where we are today. I mean, it was during Congressman Underwood's time that he authored legislation for the Guam War Claims Review Commission, and then Madeline Congresswoman Berdaya followed up on that, got it impaneled, and it did a tremendous job, I think, for the issue itself. And that's a federal report done by the Department of the Interior that, again, you bring to Congress, but you know, for one reason or another, there are other interests in Congress that either don't understand, fail to understand, do not want to understand, and throw up different issues. If it's, you know, whether it be budget, whether they're trying to liken it to opening it up for, you know, for reparations during the slave trade, or for even for military men and women that had not received reparations. I mean, those issues start getting confused, and I think in Washington, though, itself, you know, being able to continue beating your drum over the issue, in spite of the fact that that those who suffered through the war as by Japanese occupiers, even though they are leaving us annually, I think it's still, we have a moral responsibility as leaders to continue to fight that fight for them.
Now, Tony, what's the difference with that and the Filipinos who have already been compensated for, again, their assistance and for being involved in World War II? The Filipino, I think, soldiers that were maybe a part of the military or helped the U.S. military, they have some compensation. I forget what it was. If you were living in the States, you got this amount. If you were currently living in the Philippines, you got X amount. I think it was a lower compensation rate. But and that's what the folks, basically, a lot of are saying. I mean, they got the compensation, and we haven't. Our folks haven't got it.
Yeah, well, I think that's where some confusion rests, right? Because that that effort by the Filipino community or and those who were instrumental in collaborating with
I think Senator Inoue, I think, was very instrumental in that effort too, as well. I think.
Yeah, and I think where the confusion lies is that their struggle was a long one as well.
Sure, sure.
And if I'm not mistaken, if we're talking about the same thing, their redress just came more recently.
Recently, yeah,
right?
yeah, a few years back.
A few years back. Yeah. So I think when you're going to members of Congress and you're trying to lobby for that effort, being able to say, and I'm sure that they use this in their talking points, that they were never compensated versus Guam. If you have, you know, when we're being honest about the situation in Guam, there was a Guam War Claims Act that was passed shortly after the war, but it's the fact that the Navy didn't judiciously carry out the implementation, the administration of that act when they were here and trying to give people reparations. And therein lies the confusion, even though you have an admiral that said, you know, it's not being administered correctly.
Well, let's do it. Yeah, okay. I got to take a quick break. When we come back, it leads us up to political self-determination.
Sure.
And some things that were said about you. Be right back.